I work at a grocery store as a cashier, and I've met so many different types of people that I'd rather not meet again, but this one takes the cake for sure. The store I work at is open 24 hours, and this was one of the first few times I had to work the night shift. Most people don't go grocery shopping past 10 p.m., so night shifts are usually just one cashier and one manager/supervisor. My manager was in her office, and I was just on my phone trying my best to stay awake. Since I don't usually work night shifts, I was struggling a little bit once it hit about 12:30 a.m. It wasn't busy and the parking lot was empty except for my car, my manager's car, and another car sitting by the line of shopping carts. The car was running with the headlights off but the interior lights on, and a fairly large, bald dude sitting hunched over with his hands firmly holding the top of the steering wheel and staring inside the store. I was very startled by this because of how eerie and creepy it felt. After a few seconds of staring back at him, he turned off his car and the interior lights and got out of the car. He started walking around to grab a cart. I wrote it off as maybe he didn't know we were 24 hours and was trying to read the sign on the door. I ignored the fact that he would have needed his headlights on to read it. He came into the store and started scanning the aisles. I went back on my phone because if it was just an average Joe, then I didn't want to make him uncomfortable. About 15 or 20 minutes go by and he comes up to the checkout stand with a full cart, and I mean full, of jars of mayonnaise and a singular vegetable platter. This was so confusing, but I tried not to be judgmental. He took a little while to start unloading the cart because he was scanning the magazine rack that most registers have right there at checkout. He grabbed one of those teen celebrity magazines like 17 or J14 or something, which didn't help his creep factor. He started unloading the cart, and I scanned the jars as soon as they came up so that it would go as fast as possible. He greeted me with a "Hi, how are you, young lady?" but in a Donald Duck impression. I was so confused and creeped out, but I just said that I was well and asked him how he was. He responded with, "I'm just so dandy on this fine evening," in the same Donald Duck voice. I was beginning to get more scared rather than creeped out. I ignored it and asked him if he had a rewards card for our store. He said no in a normal voice. I told him the price of his transaction and he fumbled around in his pockets for his wallet. He asked me if I liked his impression and if it was good. Honestly, the impression was pretty spot on, which was why it was freaking me out so much. I told him that it was good, trying to stay polite and calm. He handed me some cash and I opened the register to get his change. As I was handing him his change, he held onto my hand and leaned over the credit card machine. He asked me if I'd ever been to a party with that much mayonnaise. I said no and pulled my hand away, which he reluctantly let go of. He was still leaning over the credit card machine and said, "Well, I won't go into too much detail, but it's not for the veggies." He winked and put his change in his wallet and began taking his grocery bags and putting them in his cart. He began acting like he was in pain and asked me to help him put the bags in his car. I was not about to do that because this guy was beyond creepy. I told him that I wasn't allowed to leave the register because I was the only one working. He tried to push, but I told him again that I was not allowed to leave the register. I don't know if that was actually a rule, but neither did he, so I used it as an excuse not to go with him anyway. He gave me a puppy dog face and pleaded with his hands, and I told him once again that I was not allowed to leave, and that if he didn't stop, I would call my manager down. He stopped immediately, scoffed at me, and left without saying another word. He loaded his car and left the cart in the parking lot, even though the line of carts was right next to his car, like literally 3 feet away. I'm assuming he probably wanted to see if I would come out and put it back, but I wasn't going out there. He got in his car, turned it on, and resumed the same position that he'd been in before he came in. I called my manager down after like 3 minutes of him just sitting there again, just like before, because it was really scaring me at this point. She came down and looked out the window at him and he drove away. I told her everything that happened and she said that I was in the right by not going with him, and that if I saw him again to call the police. Apparently, this wasn't the first time he'd done something like this during the night shift to a couple of other female coworkers. Needless to say, I made damn sure I never had another night shift again after that. So to the incredibly creepy Mayonnaise guy who tried to get me to go to his car in the middle of the night, let's never meet again. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, submit, obey.